Hello, I'm Georgia Ingrey and I'm here to present my final major project Sketchbook, which showcases my experiments and ideas. So here you can see I began by mind mapping various words inspired by the trends that I'd researched previously and my works that I've created for other modules. I've looked into the idea of fantasy, nostalgia, artist support, as well as sustainability, which was a massive trend seen throughout my research. Here I've depicted various phrases and words that could help solidify my concepts further when creating my mood boards. I've looked into the idea of minimalism, different colours used throughout, and the importance of bringing the outdoors indoors. To begin with, I started looking at the sort of fluid type art effect using inks. However, I possibly used the wrong colour choice and would perhaps appear better in a light muted green or even just a light muted grey, just to propose the idea of comfort, relaxation, bringing that calmness back into people's homes rather than the quite chaotic appearance the black colour portrays. Again, looking at different linear qualities, looking at curvatures within lines to create that more softer appearance rather than the harsh straight lines that I could have used opposed to these, which wouldn't give the same sort of effect that I was going for within my proposal, by looking at bringing positivity and that comfort back into people's homes. Here again, I was looking at the idea of inks and how different brushstrokes can evoke different feelings. I decided to create a collage to give that fantasy sort of abstract type feel, and although I think it's quite effective, it doesn't necessarily portray the ideas that I was trying to go for, and perhaps again the black choice of colour isn't the one that I would possibly take forward. Beginning to develop ideas, I then started to look into how I could create patterns and use neutral colours within my colour scheme. Here you can see there's various linear qualities within this piece. However, it may be too complex to perhaps use as a possible print or pattern idea. However, you can really tell and capture the softness on camera through this imagery. So, looking into well-being and what people have been doing throughout lockdown, I began to look into bringing the outdoors in, inspired by my trends, but also being a common response within my mini questionnaire that I carried out. So here you can see I've played with different manipulations of yarn to create bark-like texture. And when you feel it, it has a really nice quality, which could perhaps be portrayed throughout my concept with that touch and the addition of different senses. Here was an initial piece inspired by a piece of ice found on one of my walks, looking at reflective materials. This was for actually a homeware piece that could create a triptych. However, this may appear better as a possible backdrop with this large texture in the back behind the homeware range I decide to promote. Here I'm deciding to look into different wallpapers if I would like to go into that further along my concept. Here you can see that I've preferred different textures, so these three textures here would suit better to my concept rather than the more glittery, perfect print type aesthetic. Then again, looking at the movement of water and the reflections, I decided to create different abstract wire shapes in which I've collaged a line drawing on top, which could be portrayed into a different sculpture that is surrounding the homeware. Here you can see it would have quite an aerated finish, whilst having that natural quality that you often see on walks with the tangulation of the natural elements. So here I'm starting to look more into different quirky styles of homeware ranges, and here you can see they've used the textures that I'd hoped to portray without my concept, and you'll see that throughout my sketchbook further. And the inclusion of people may be quite nice within my photography shoot as well, just to show that the importance of including people sometimes and bringing back that sense of contact with people again within the range. This also, I looked into the Next magazine, and it's inspired me to think about possible sample boards where people can pick their texture of choice for a possible cushion effect. Beginning to sketch ideas, I looked in the idea of weaving with pampas grass and the complementary colours and textures seen within the actual homeware range itself. Although simplistic, I think with the textures it may be overwhelming to perhaps overwork the background within this piece. So not only have I looked at the bark and the natural elements within my walks, I've actually tried to collect materials that I've found, which could be possible colour palettes. However, the blue might not be as suitable now, especially this dark blue, but it's something to consider as well going further along my project, and possibly curating a questionnaire asking about colour. So this was another knit piece which included the nylon thread and different yarns, which was actually described by my peers as very calming, tranquil, and give that water-like texture with the reflectiveness throughout. This could possibly be applied to different POS. And again, looking into different prints, thinking about sort of that camouflage feel, a different take on what I've done previously, with the natural elements. However, again, I should have probably used a more neutral colour rather than this dark grey. Possibly it could have been lighter. And I've developed this by using a new needle punching skill to create a stone-like texture, which could possibly be applied to a pillow, manipulated as a rug on Photoshop, as well as maybe even onto a footstool. So here I've begun my more material manipulation, seeing how double layers work and what would work best when creating pillows and lampshades throughout my project, as it's always best to try first before creating the overall piece. So I wanted to make sure the technique worked well. This is applying the same technique but in different ways, seeing the closeness by applying different colour and what quality different materials give. Here you can see the texture as a mini pillow mock-up to see that it actually has executed really well and is something that I am considering taking further within my range. Looking at a way to expand on the natural elements within my project, to see, again, looking at different ways to bring that natural element indoors, but not necessarily through the natural floral prints. It's quite abstract, this feel, and it has quite a spongy, nice quality. However, I perhaps wouldn't apply it as heavily when maybe using it during a screen print. It would have quite an even finish. Here are some more pattern generation ideas, looking at the organic shapes and linear aspects inspired by my drawings previously. Looking at a different pottery homeware range, possibly, I looked at this artist as it gives quite a calming sort of overall aspect, and she was also inspired by nature. They were also inspired by nature, and I did try this technique using the coil method. However, the clay kept collapsing and cracking, so I decided to problem solve and use this macrame cord, which still has a really lovely texture, and actually utilised an old wine bottle. Although I would perhaps prefer a more irregular shape, I think that this would possibly be really exciting for people to come in and create and also buy these products with this texture on. Possibly a workshop could be held to create this. So I then began to develop my pattern ideas previously earlier into print ideas, looking at lino print and also not applying the ink perfectly to create that more, it's like the broken shabby chic texture that I think really will complement the textures within the pieces I'm hoping to create throughout, or possibly even the pieces that I also intend to buy. And the idea is so it's not perfect, and it just really creates a mood and just different to being perfect of what we relating to what we've gone through in lockdown is all a bit over the place, but we're bringing back that comfort and that sort of softness again. So here I'm looking into like ink experiments using ice. This perhaps is something that I could project on possibly, but the wrong colour choice we used. But the experimentation worked really well with the abstract shapes. Here looking at more clay experimentation works and looking at how this could possibly apply to a pottery piece or even a large sculpture to actually promote the range.